It's 11 o'clock.
It's 11 for you.
Yeah.
All right. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm waiting for final confirmation. Looking good so far. Yeah, we're live. Good morning, everyone.
Hi,
I
guys.
hope you can see us online and you joined us at the right time. So today is Saturday as usual and 10 a.m. Central European time. We are XTechnology. We are a collaboration of people who like to explore technologies and play with different technologies. So we can write some awesome projects. I'm Alex, and here is Andrew. Hi, Andrew.
Yeah, hi.
Hi.
Yeah, it's our second coding hour about creating an open source project on Nest and TypeORM. And I hope you enjoyed the previous session, and today we'll continue.
Yeah,
Okay.
awesome. Just to remind, what are we in a few sentences? So we collaborate on different backgrounded projects such as programming, DevOps, or either data science. We have our GitHub, and this is publicly available, of course. So one of the recent topics is indeed NestJS and gRPC that we explored already in quite a lot of events, as you can see. So feel free to check them on our YouTube channel. Beside that, we also have other different formats, such as the projects themselves in GitHub, but also workshops that we do in time to time, and of course inviting different cool guests and experts to check all of this stuff together. So feel free to follow us in any channel of your choice. All right, Andrew, shall we begin with your code?
Yes, I think so. It's Saturday morning. It's beautiful for coding. Okay. Alex, I will share my screen with you.
Yeah.
Just a second. Okay, do you see the screen? Everything's well?
Yeah, just double checking it on YouTube right now. I can see it on Google Meet. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
All good.
Okay, cool. So previous time we already created the repo on GitHub and started with initializing the NestJS application there, and we also run a database. And since that time, I almost haven't touched any code except to README. I combed it a little bit, so now it has information about what we going to do it, and I will just remind that we want to create a boilerplate or starter kit, as you wish, which will provide you ability to start your project faster. Because in any project you usually need to store data somewhere and you need the API. And in this particular example, we're gonna use REST API. And in this boilerplate, you will have several features related to database which are already configured. So as I said previous time, we installed Nest, we talked about Postgres and how to run this project, and today we'll continue. Okay, Postgres, we decided to run Postgres inside Docker container. And for this, we wrote this Docker compose file with a single service, which is a database. We used another open source project for it, but it's based on vanilla Postgres Docker image with some is one script which runs initially, and this script creates a database and the schema in your database. And that's all that it does. So let's run our database by clicking play button here. Okay.
So it's your
let's-
own Docker Postgres image with a few layers on top with a script and the creation of tables.
Yeah. So not tables, but it creates a database for you and schema. So you just specify it as environment variable, and it also create you several users because. By default, when you run vanilla Postgres in Docker, you get only Postgres user, and it's kind of root. And you know that it's bad practice to do everything with root permissions. And in this package, you will get two more users. It's admin and it's app. Admin user is great for running migrations because DDL operations are allowed, like creating tables, modifying columns, and so on. But app user, on the other hand, it's useful for using it from application because there is no permission for app user to DDL operations, only to DML. So you can insert, update, delete records, but you can't modify the schema itself by this user.
So you have this SQL setup in this Docker image specifically, like, okay, this is app role user, has this segregated permissions from root. Yeah, that's awesome. I think it's a nice structure indeed.
Yeah. Okay, so I just run the container, and now I can connect to it via database tools in PHP Storm. And you see we actually already connected. So here we see that our database called boilerplate already created in Postgres cluster. And actually there should be schema. Let me check. Yeah, we have a boilerplate schema. Okay, but there are no tables initially, of course, because we haven't created anything yet. And that's we gonna fix today.
With TypeORM, I guess.
Yes, we're gonna use TypeORM for this. And on the previous session, we agreed that we will create a simple example with kind of online shop, and we'll have products, we'll have users, and we'll have orders in this application. So it will be modulus on the Nest in the Nest, and it will just examples. And when you start with this boilerplate, you will be free to just remove this modulus if you don't need it, or you can continue to use them as example and start modifying them. So just starting point. Okay, but before we start using TypeORM, I think we need to take a look at another library which we're going to use, and it's called CRUD.js. Come on, NestJS CRUD.
All right, plugin for NestJS that also implements endpoints for entities, if I understood that correctly.
Yes. So let's just briefly look at that, at what it provides to you. So then you get it installed. You will get a mechanism to generate endpoints by entities. So, for example, if we need the products in our application, we create an entity called products. We describe it so that it has columns like name or cost. And when we describe this entity, TypeORM will allow us to create it in a database as table. And then this library it will allow you to generate the API endpoints for this entity. So we'll have get products for getting the list of product, or for a single product. We'll have endpoints for creating new products and updating them. And this is all generated automatically. And it's awesome because we'll not spend time on it at all. And another very useful feature provided by this library is one moment. Where is it? Just a moment. So usually when you work with a list of let's say products, you need some pagination, filtration, and things like this. And this library cares about it as well. So you will have following query params, and they will allow you to form your response. For example, if you want to use pagination, you can specify offset and the page params and the limit as well, and it will return only what you requested. And you don't need to write any code on backend side for it, because this library provides this possibility. It also has some search and filtering params. And I think that we just explore it on example right now. But in order to use it, we need to install it first. Let's start with it.
Awesome. Okay. I see that this is official NestJS package. Well, it's under the NestJS GitHub, if I see that correctly.
It's NestJS 6. So it's I'm actually not sure if they are official or not, but
okay.
It's still nice. I use it for a couple of projects already now, and it just works very well.
Yeah, yeah. In Java they have a very, in Spring framework they have very alike library for that purposes. Nice.
Open terminal. Okay, so yarn add CRUD TypeORM, and you can use this library without TypeORM. But in our example, TypeORM is exactly what we need. So I'm installing the setup for TypeORM. Okay.
Yeah, that's clear.
Done. Okay. Now let's create our first module and use this library. I prefer to store all the modules in a directory called modules. And let's check. In our README, we said that we will have products, and products will have prices. And I think they will have names and descriptions. Come on. Name and description, and that will be enough. Okay, so I create new module called, actually I'm gonna generate it, not create from scratch, because NestJS, it goes together with CLI.
NestJS CLI, right?
Yeah. So let's use it. Just TypeORM. So nest G. Okay, nest. Okay, if you just type nest, it shows you help page. Application creation. We want to generate actually resource. There is it. Here is CRUD resource. It's a default CRUD resource for Nest, and we'll modify it to use this library. Okay, Nest.
Interesting. I would expect it's called entity, but apparently it has something more.
Yeah, but inside resource you will have a module, controller, and service.
Okay, so it will also be inside the module already. Okay, that's
yeah.
nice.
Okay. What name? Products. When you have products. Yeah, it's REST API. It asks if I want to generate CRUD endpoints. I will answer yes here, just to see what Nest generate by default, but we're gonna replace it with library next step. But just show. Okay, it's already created. SRC products. Okay, great. But I want it
so
to be...
the difference would be probably with this library that it doesn't have a code that has this endpoints explicitly defined, right? It will be under some annotations or decorators, I guess. But yeah, curious to see.
Yes, we'll take a look at this right now. Okay, I'm adding it to Git. Come on. Okay.
I like that you removed tests because no one cares about tests, right?
No, we have it's in our plan, but probably we will have special guest who write a lot of tests recently for Nest.
Awesome.
Yeah, but let's take a look what Nest generated for us. So first of all, it's our entity. Now it's clear, it's just a class. And we're gonna change it in a couple of moments. Else, every functionality in Nest, it can be added by modules. So it creates products module, and this project module we need to import in the app module. And we see that the CLI did it for us automatically. So in our global app module, we import products module as a feature. Okay, in products module, it defines that we'll have a products controller. So it's class which will describe what endpoints we'll have. And also we declare here that we will use product service as a provider. It means that in controller, we can include product service like this. So we just define parameter, we call it product service, and we specify type, and NestJS understands that we want to instantiate product service in this variable. And in order to do it, we specify it in projects module as a provider. So this is a global thing about NestJS. It's how dependency injection works, and that's just some basic thing. So
I may interrupt with some thoughts on the line. Indeed, this is a dependency injection, but it's not necessary create an instances in this product service. It's in most cases, I think it's like a singleton.
Yes, for sure. That's why you by default it created only once, and you can use one instance. But Nest can provide different behavior, but it's bit tricky topic to talk about it right now. But sometimes you need to create controllers and services for every request. But I think we'll not talk about it right now. Yeah, in this case it's singleton. And so in controller, we see that Nest generated for us these CRUD endpoints for creating and getting all the entities. And what it does, it usually invokes methods of the service. And inside the service, we gonna implement all the business logic, how to actually get this data. And you see that by default, it just generates some methods which just return strings.
Interesting. I thought that this is a functionality for repository, and I think NestJS has something that is called repository. Isn't it?
Actually, not Nest, but TypeORM. It provides you a pattern like a repository, and we'll take a look at how to work with it a bit later. But Nest, it doesn't care about where you store data and how you do it. So you don't need to implement a repository if you, for example, want to store everything in memory and just return it from here. It's one of their principles that Nest is technology agnostic. So it just give you a backbone how to structure application, but they store data, what libraries you use, you decide yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, so it generates it for you, but we're gonna replace it because we gonna use this library to do this work. So we don't need all this code. I will simply remove it. And
Yeah, you're right about repository. It's in a docs. It's mentioned under TypeORM, but indeed it's not by default in the framework. Nice. And yeah, NestJS is just a little opinionated, but indeed it's library agnostic. It's I think it's clear that you underlined that. It's very nice.
Okay. Good service. So let's get back to documentation. I did a bit bigger. Getting started. So what they recommend? They recommend to start with entity. So you create an entity and then you create a service. So let's just do the same entity. Actually, copy this product entity. It's a class, and it's pure TypeORM entity. This decorator is from TypeORM library, as you see, and we'll have ID, name, we'll have description, and we'll have price, which is number. Okay, great. What's next? They recommend you continue with this service. Okay. Service, product service, just replace. Not a company. We need product here. Product entity. Export class. Oh. Cool. Service. Okay, so the magic here is that we extended from TypeORM CRUD service, which contains all the logic which we want to implement. Product. Inject repository. This is a feature of TypeORM. So you just by this method you say that you will use a repository pattern for product entity, and you see that in constructor we just invoke constructor of base class TypeORM CRUD service, and that's all. So service.
Maybe a few words.
Mhm,
What is a pattern repository for you? Is
mhm.
it just a database connection?
Yeah, let me show you. TypeORM work in this repository. So it means that if you create a repository like this, so this happens for us automatically, this line. So we just get repo here, and later we can use this repo like this. We can use methods like find one, save, and so on. So just
So repository is created for us for free. I mean, it's happening under the hood, basically.
yes. So here we just have it.
Mm-hmm.
And later, for example, if we have some custom methods, so like get custom, something custom,
Mm-hmm.
we can access repo via this repo and use these methods
Mm-hmm.
just because we declared it in constructor.
Okay. So repo is kind of a high-level representation of a table functionality. Like you can access, you can do the different queries. You can probably update data using this object.
Yes, and cool thing that you can inject several repositories. So, for example, if in this service you need to work with products, but also these users, you just do like this. Users repo, and if you have user entity, you just specify like this, and then you will be able to use this user repo here, users repo, the same way. But
Yeah, right.
we don't need it now. So let's just roll it back. Okay, cool. We created the service. Now let's continue this controller. Okay, so we'll just copy it. And console, okay, great. Service. Let's propagate it in.
Yeah. Just while you are typing, just to say a few words. The injectable, we don't see it in a controller, but we saw it in service. Is a uh, um, it's one of the way you can provide some functionality. And actually, NestJS says there are providers, and anything can be a provider. And that is can be injected into things like controllers. So controllers like live on a front close to front end, let's say, and indeed they need some services to be injected to do real logic, to implement some business logic.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I realized that I have not added this library, so I'm gonna fix it. I installed only things for TypeORM, but not the core library itself. Okay.
Really like this ecosystem. It feels like a super close to enterprise level.
Okay. TypeScript stopped complaining, so everything's fine. What do we do here? So we declare controller, and it's just a class. You see that it even not extends anything. It just implements CRUD controller. And in constructor, we should declare service because it's used in this library. And here we have settings for our CRUD API. And now we have quite minimalistic setting. We just specify what model. Model is another word for entity we use, and we just specify its type. It's just our entity. So that's basically it. I think that we should start our application and see how it works. So when package is on, here we have start script. So I'm gonna press play. Okay, can't find model class transformer. Great, maybe use it. Just a moment. Okay, but for now I will just install it.
Maybe we could see in stack trace where it's actually coming from. You know, there is a awesome npm command, npm list, and then you specify this class transformer package, and then it should be.
But yeah, I know that it used by for validation in TypeORM. So I guess probably in TypeORM instruction you will find the step where you need to install this library. Okay, let's try again. Okay. Oh, that's much better. It's Nest complaining that we not injected product repository somewhere. Interesting. In controller. Oh, of course we haven't included TypeORM module anywhere. So let's just fix it. So our application knows nothing about TypeORM. That's why it's
you mean TypeORM module in terms of NestJS, like you have to import it into your module if you use it. Is that
yeah. We just go to official so the official site of NestJS, and looking at the instruction there, we tell us how to use TypeORM. In this article, you learn how to create database model based on TypeORM and tag. Solution contains a lot of overhead you can omit using. Okay. Okay, Nest has TypeORM integration, which we use. Yeah, here we are. That's what we need to actually connect to our database. We need the in our app module, we need to add the TypeORM module. Okay, actually gonna copy this code. Just a moment. Okay, we need TypeORM module for root. That's our app module, imports project model, TypeORM module. Yes, import. We need the ORM config. I will store ORM config in a separate file. Just a moment. Okay, let's store it like new file ORM config. Yes, should look like this. I will change boilerplate.
But did you get this template for ORM config? I missed that.
Just from my my project.
From your brain directly.
Yeah. Just don't want to spend a lot of time on typing this.
No, of course.
And comment migrations for now, and this stuff we'll need later. Okay, what's going on here? First of all, I will open Docker Compose as well. So these are settings which we run our local database, this. And here there's ORM config, so we need to store config how to application should connect to database. And here we specify that we're using Postgres, and I'm using here several environment variables, and it's for the time then I will run this application on another environment, let's say production. I will have other passwords and other connections to database probably, and I want to have ability to configure it via environment variables. But else I use here default params to connect to local database. Okay, we run database on this port. And as I said before, for application, we use app user. We use this password specified here. We already created a database called boilerplate, so I specified here, and I specify schema, which is called boilerplate as well. And here are some other interesting settings. First of all, here we tell TypeORM where to look for entities, for our entities. And you see that I specify your name. Okay, your name, and then we just modules. Okay, inside modules folder, we'll have other directories, but inside of them we'll have entities folder, and inside this entities folder we need to use files which ends this entity.typescript or JavaScript. So if we specify it like this, all other entities will be loaded automatically. So alternative to this solution is to specify array of our of paths to particular entities, but we don't need it. We want to load
so entities for TypeORM, they sort of responsible for defining the structure of database, right?
Yes.
From these classes, TypeORM understands which tables to create and how to structure them.
Yes, and how to build queries as well. Okay, and here's another very interesting option: synchronize. And if I set it to true, it means that every time I run the application, every time it create a TypeORM instance, it will check entities and create tables inside the database, or new columns, or whatever. Okay, so we have this ORM config. Let's use it here. Okay, cool. And this is how we define a global TypeORM module for creating connection to database. But also in every module, like products module, we need to specify that we want to work with this particular entity. And for this, we use following construction. TypeORM module for feature, and here we list entities which we want to work with, like product. Okay. Now our module know that we'll use TypeORM to connect to database, and we will work only with project entity. And remember, in service, we specified that we want to inject a repository and use this product. And Nest checks if you specified this entity for module, it allows you to do it. If not, it will not. And that's what happened when we tried to start our application. Nest just realized that we trying to use this project entity, but we never connected it. We never defined the dependency on this module. Okay, let's try it again. Okay, this time it says that it can't connect to database. Interesting. Why?
Do you have it running?
Yeah, interesting. It's working. Oh, because I haven't installed the PG library to connect to database. Okay. That's why boilerplates are useful. They have all these things already installed. Yarn add PG. PG is like Node.js driver to connect to database. It's like low-level library which used by all the frameworks, and it doesn't go together with TypeORM, because this TypeORM you can use different databases like MySQL, for example. That's why we need to install it separately. So now we have it installed, and we try again. Okay. Now we have another error. Looks like it managed to connect to database, but then it tries to create boilerplate product. Query failed because permission are denied. Okay, and I will explain why. You see that this option forces TypeORM to create tables, and here we're using app user, and app user only can insert, remove records, but not create tables. And we will fix it in the correct way soon, but for now I will just change user for admin, because admin has more permissions. It can create tables and modify database structure. Okay, let's try it one more time. Yoo-hoo! Looks like everything went well. We see that TypeORM, while starting, it creates a table for us. We actually can see it here as well. I will refresh structure. You see that table product appeared here. I actually don't want it to call product. I want it to be called products. So I'm going to modify it. So entity called products. Okay. So I'm gonna restart it.
Will it delete the table that was created before?
I think it will create new table, but will not remove previous one. But let's just check. I'm not sure. Yeah, it haven't removed anything. It's just created. I think that there is a setting to drop everything else.
Yeah.
And we actually, when we will talk about seeders, we will talk about this option. But for now, I just manually remove this table. Drop table product. Okay. Okay, we have products. We can explore it. You see that there is no data here, but we can see that there are our columns: ID, name, description, and price. We can see them here as well. We see that name and descriptions are varchar, and price is integer. Actually, price shouldn't be integer, right? We want it to be float.
Mhm.
So I specify float here. Yeah. But
Yeah,
varchar.
of course, JavaScript doesn't have a integer type, so that is only for Postgre.
Yeah, so we need to specify type here explicitly, and we can use a lot of different types which Postgres provides, and of course, not all of them are supported in JavaScript. In JavaScript, we have simpler types. Like for example, in Postgres, you have dozens of types to store time and date. In JavaScript, you only have date. That's it. Yeah, so and all the numbers, they are numbers this floating point in JavaScript, but by default TypeORM it treats number as integer, as you see, but prices are definitely not integer. Okay, let's check if it change column or not, by the way. Okay, I refresh. Yeah, see that it says that it has double precision. Probably too good for prices, but that's okay for us. And we see that CRUD.js module, it creates endpoints for us. And let's just check them out. I'll do it in browser. So I'll try localhost. Which port we're on it? One moment. It's in main TS on 3000.
Yeah, I was really surprised that NestJS is so awesome tool from the box, but it doesn't output on which port the application is running in the console. That's only small thing is missing in there.
We can fix it.
Yeah.
Okay, but you see that if we call get products, we receive empty array now, and that's actually what we want.
Yeah.
Let's check endpoints for creation. And in order to do it, I will use built-in REST client in PHP Storm.
Do you know this Swagger plugin for NestJS?
Sorry, could you repeat?
Have you seen this Swagger or
Swagger
API
yeah,
plugin?
we actually tried to use it, and probably I think that when we create tests for this application, this guy, invited guest, he will also tell us about Swagger and how to configure it, because he recently done this task, and I really hope that he will able to join and show it. Okay, but for now I will create folder like requests examples, and here I create products file. Okay, and here starts is our get request. Okay, we see that it returns us empty array. Now let's try to create product. And I will use post. Same URL, but I want
Andrew is doing here, I think, is internal functionality of IDEA of PHP Storm and other IntelliJ products. Like this can be with curl, or I think normally you also use how it's called again, Postman. So in IDEA or in a PHP Storm, you just have it from the editor itself.
Yeah, it's quite useful, I should say. Right, but not for big projects, because in big projects you usually not just need not only single requests, you need to build flows, and currently PHP Storm doesn't provide this functionality. Okay, let's try post bad request. Bad request. Let's take a look at. Why it's bad request? Empty data, nothing to save. Oh, I think I should just send an array. No. Okay. Probably I. Oh, it doesn't send it. It does. Probably I need to. Content type application JSON. Just a moment. Storm, REST, client, REST.
Interesting.
Show me example.
I actually saw once in these HTTP files, so they had something like flows even tests, I think, but yeah, I'm not entirely sure.
Probably. Get. Okay. Come on, yes. But how do I send body?
Can you maybe search by post or by body, maybe?
Oh. Put HTTP request, convert. But looks like it understands that I sent. Okay, I will try to use REST client for now. Okay, choose post.
What I can send you my cool
post products. Specify body. Send. Okay, internal server error. That's great. Okay, okay. Null value in description. Okay. Currently, we do not have validation level in our application. That's why it's 500 error, not 400 error. Come on, send. Okay. Yeah, we actually get it. ID2, name, product, description. Let's take a look at database. Yeah, it's very interesting why we have ID2, not 1. And what if we create another product? We get 3. So suspicious. Okay, now we can receive them. Okay, but isn't cool? We just described the entity, created a couple of files. We have all this API ready to go.
It's definitely cool.
Content type. I will try to specify content type. It probably will fix it. Content type application JSON. Post. Yoo-hoo! Yeah, it was a problem with content type header. It just treated it as usual text and haven't parsed it.
All right.
Okay, great.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Okay. I think it's time to make a commit.
Yeah. So I have a few questions actually. If I don't know, would you prefer to summarize things first?
Yeah, I think that we have only 5 minutes today, so it's definitely a good time to start asking questions, because we'll
Mhm.
continue next time.
Mhm. Right. So do a commit then. So entity controller model service. Okay. Nice. Really, really awesome. I like that everything. Yeah. So I'm actually wondering what would be the next in this guide, in this tutorial that
Oh,
you're showing us.
yeah, so next thing is most interesting thing, because you see that now we have empty table. And usually when we work on projects, and especially in teams, we need to have a way to fill these tables with like fake data. And so next I would like to talk about how we create seeders for filling
Mhm.
data, and not just separate scripts, but which are integrated in this application, which use the same entities and the same approach. So it will be separate. Spoiler, it
Mhm.
will have separate Nest application, which is only for filling data in database. And Elsa, I
Nice.
would like to cover a question about how we write migrations, because this sync mode, it's you can use it only locally. If you run it on production, these settings, it will drop your tables and corrupt your data. So it's not the way how it's working on production. And migration solves this problem, and that's we'll talk about. And also testing and documentation. So that's our remaining things for it,
Really nice.
for this project.
All right. Yeah. Please don't forget to commit. I interrupt some thoughts, some flowing thoughts. So yeah, don't forget to do that. Yeah, a few questions maybe. So how would you use this kind of boilerplate? Do I understand correctly? The idea is you clone this repo and start doing pretty much what you were showing us.
Yeah, so I think that we definitely should have an instruction about how to use this boilerplate. But yeah, the idea is that you go to GitHub, XTechnology, Nest, TypeORM boilerplate. You click fork button, and you just get to your own fork and you start modifying it. But it has everything pre-configured to just start working, to create your own entities. And so that's it. That's
Yeah.
working API with examples of how you write tests, how you write modules itself, how you fill a database, and things like this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Awesome. Yeah. I have two more. They are about a technology, specific set of technologies that you've chosen. Maybe a few reasons why you have chosen. Well, first of all, REST, and then TypeORM. Do you have some specific preference on that, or is just
Mhm.
to demonstrate purpose? Yeah.
Yeah, it's just for demonstrate purpose, because um, uh, I'm using both REST and GraphQL in my projects, and uh, there are different advantages and disadvantages of every of them. But um, just just chosen REST for this example. Okay, you asked about REST and TypeORM. Yeah,
Mhm.
TypeORM is actually a good one, because before it I used Sequelize, and you know that Sequelize, that it initially was written for JavaScript. They spent a lot of time to rewriting things to TypeScript, but it's still not. Mm, uh, not at this point as TypeORM. And SQLize, it contains a lot of issues. Some of them very annoying and very old. That's why all new projects I start on TypeORM.
Nice, nice.
Um,
Well, Andrew, I can say that was a very, very useful session for myself. You know, like I'm not practicing NestJS a lot, but I have some idea of what how is it working. So that was really, really useful for me to understand. Yeah, well, these linked technologies altogether.
mhm,
And we are right in time. It's well 11 in
mhm,
Central European
mhm,
time. So yeah, any pitch for the next time? Please feel free to say anything.
mhm. So, yeah, next time, probably next Saturday or in a week,
Mhm.
but we'll
Yeah,
announce it.
follow us to see. We follow us to see and for updates on which is going to be a new stream. Maybe it's going to be really a new event. Maybe it's going to be a continuation of NestJS, as that will be announced in a few next days.
Mhm. Okay, so bye bye, guys.
Thanks,
Peace out.
everyone. Thanks for attention, and yeah, see you next time.